everyone, it's April here and welcome back to another studio vlog. It is Friday, currently 12 PM, so about lunchtime, and I've got 2.5 days until I have to go back to work on Monday, so I'm going to get some stuff done. I'm also going to chill out and have some fun. Probably won't show you that part, that might be a bit boring for you to see me chilling out, but I will show you what I get up to doing my stuff for my Etsy and YouTube and things like that. So this morning I have already done my run because I want to run every day this month, and I've done my yoga, and we also did some chores around the house and like tidied up, took down the Christmas tree, so Christmas is officially over. And we also got this new bedspread we treated ourselves, because apparently when you're an adult this is a treat. I think it's a nice treat. It's nice to have a nice clean bedspread. Anyway, I have more exciting things for people that like art than bedspreads. This morning I got a delivery. I'm very excited. I have a delivery from Jackson Arts. If you saw my vlog last week, you'll know that my iPad died and I was going to do a no spend Jan. I did buy this in December though, so it still counts. I am going to focus this year on just my iPad and acrylic gouache. But because my iPad broke, I think I was a little bit sad. How do you get into this box? I think I was a little bit sad, so I decided to treat myself to some more acrylic gouache. If we can ever get in here. I don't think that's how you're meant to open the box, but oh well. Okay, here we go. So much packaging. So guys, I've seen these before. I do have a few colours. You had these for about a year, just these colours, so I thought I'd branch out a little bit and get some new ones. So let's see. I can't even remember what I got, guys. So these are all my new colours. This ivory white is just a replacement, so we will ignore that. I do love this ivory white though. It's like my favourite white. It's really nice. Okay, I got the ash blue, ash green, navy blue, shell pink. Look how lovely this shell pink is. I got a neutral grey because I just liked it, and then opera, which I've been trying to get for ages. They didn't have it, so I got rose instead, but you can see there's a massive difference in these. This looks so bright and vibrant. And a pale mint, which I think is nice. I have this ice green, so that looks like a nice little combo. So yeah, I'm really excited. I'm going to swatch these out later probably, but for now, Martin brought Borderlands 3 last night, so I think we're going to do a Borderlands gaming session and then have lunch. Just got my Mussery mixed media sketchbook here, and I do have a page where I've swatched out my gouache already, but there's not enough space at the bottom for my new ones, so I've rearranged them into like a little rainbow, and I'm gonna swatch them again because swatching is fun. This is my new acrylic gouache colour palette now. I think I've got a few good colours. I'm not going to need any more ones for a while, so I probably will not try to buy any until one of them runs out. Now this one here, the opera, how crazy bright is that? That's really bright. I think my favourite of my new colours is the pale mint. No surprise there. Now the only problem is I think I'm gonna need a bigger bowl. Too many paints. I mean, what a problem to have. It's getting to that time of night where the sun's gonna go down forever, so we decided that we're gonna go for a little walk and see the sunset maybe. I just wanted to show you something for all those fashionable people out there. Get ready. This is pretty cool. Leggings are too short and my socks are too long, and I go out like this in public. Martin is so lucky to have me. So we're in the nature reserve that we come to for our walks, and this is it. Currently we're on top of what's called the ridge, which is the highest point, and you can see all the nature reserve from here. It's one of our favourite places to come for a walk. It's so pretty. Someone's getting Christmassy in the forest. It's Saturday and it's 3-ish, I'm not sure. I'm very sleepy. I haven't done anything all day. Well, I did like a meetup thing with some friends for running, so we did like a run and then we had brunch which turned into like lunch, and then I've just been laying on the couch watching Vikings, so now I'm really sleepy. But I'm gonna do some stuff on the computer. I scanned all my images in for my zine and I'm gonna pop them into Photoshop and like remove all the backgrounds and bump up the contrast and kind of make them look nice. So I thought I would show you kind of how I do that, so you can kind of see my process if you want to use it in the future. So I'm gonna go pop into the office and we'll get started. Okay, I'm in the office now and I've got my camera arm just in case, probably won't use it. Got my coffee, water, microphone, Photoshop. So the first thing I did was scanning all these images. I did this last night. These are my images from my 2019 zine. If you watched last week's video, you'd have seen me completely destroy a Mossery sketchbook to get these images flat. So I scanned them into Photoshop 600 DPI just so they're nice and large and you can get all the detail. And now we will pop into Photoshop. On a little side note, I do love this coffee cup. It's a narwhal coffee cup from a paper chase. Do have to be careful with this little spike here. I have knocked my teeth a few times on it, but isn't it cute? Oh, scans. Alright, so this is showing all of my scans that I did yesterday. They're all really big images, but I'm going to open them all up at once because I'm crazy. So while these are all popping in, I'll just let you know that this isn't going to be like a massive tutorial. I just wanted to quickly show you the process just because I'm doing it, and I thought, why not? Maybe it's going to be helpful, maybe not. If not, I will leave the place to skip to down below so you can just skip this process. If you do like this and you want to learn more about how I make zines, I do have a whole series of when I did my last zine, so I'll put that in the link below as well. I've got all of my scans up. You can see they come in upside down because I scanned them upside down. If I double click the zoom, this is how big it is in reality. So this is how like 100% zoom. So you can see it's massive. You can see all the detail. It's quite low contrast, and there's also some little bits here where I want to kind of clean things up a little bit for the zine. So that's going to be my plan. So first things first, I'm going to pop them all in to one single document so I can work on all of them in one document. I'm quite lucky because I have two screens, so I'm just dragging all of these off onto my second screen, and then I'll drag them all back over into a new document. It's a little bit time consuming, but it's fine. Normally I'd have music on, or I'd have like Netflix on in the background or something. So this is the first image. I'm just going to save as, make it a new document. And now that I've done that, I'm going to drag these all in. So one thing I like to do is the background here is locked. You can unlock that and then you can rename the layer. So this is going to be, I'm just literally going to call it 1 because I'm simple like that. But I would recommend naming all the layers as you work in Photoshop or any other program like that, just because it's so much easier. Another thing I forgot to mention, when you bring them in, if you hold shift, it places it exactly where you want it. If you don't, if you just drag it, it'll place it wherever. So if you are doing this in Photoshop, you can just hold shift and it'll place it exactly centered and lined up perfect. I know probably a lot of people don't have Photoshop. If you don't, I'm sure there's other free software out there. I don't know of any, like I don't use any. I've just been lucky enough to be able to use Photoshop because when I was a student we had it in uni, and then afterwards I've had it for jobs. So because I work in Creative Cloud all day long, like After Effects, Premiere, Photoshop sometimes, Illustrator, a lot of my jobs have had a license, so I've always been lucky enough to have my own license. I haven't had to pay for it yet. It is quite expensive. I think it's about 30-40 pounds a month, which I know is quite a lot for some people, but if not, I'm sure that you can Google and find a similar software that does kind of the same thing as this. So now I've got all of my images in and I've numbered them all so I know which day or which image is what. as you can see, they're all upside down, so I'm just going to rotate it by going up to image, and then you can go image rotation 180 degrees. It's going to take a while because there's quite a lot of images, but now you can see they're all up the right way. So that's what we want. So I did scan these all in kind of different areas. So I put a ruler on here. You can see that the page shifts around quite a lot. What I might do is make a little selection that's the same size as this paper, and then line them all up to that so I can crop it all. Color it in like red. Now, I'm sure there's other ways to do this. I'm pretty old school though, and I just like to do things easily. So this is like a little selection box, and then what we can do is just make sure they're all in this box. So 31 is in there, and then we can see 30 needs to come down a little bit, and I'm just going to do that for all of them. Okay, so now they're all in my little red box, so I'm going to crop it to this size. So you can either press C and drag these handles down like this, or something that I think is a lot easier is if you control click the layer, that this red box here, if you've done it similarly, it selects it, and then you press C and it comes up with a little crop sign. You press enter and it automatically goes to that size. So now we've cropped it, and we can get rid of this red box and save. Now I think the next thing that we need to do is work on the contrast and the white balance and all that jazz. So as you can see, it is black and white, but there are parts where you can see my red pencil, and also the ink is quite on the brown side. So I have been debating whether I want to go completely black and white or keep a little bit of the brown. So I'm just going to have a look. So I'm just bringing up my hue and saturation, and the shortcut code for that is Control U. And if I take my saturation all the way down, you can see it's quite grey and a bit boring. I quite like it a little bit on the brown side. Well, one thing we can do is we can desaturate it so it's completely unsaturated. Click OK. So that's completely black and white. But if we go back into hue and saturation again and click this colorize, we can change the hue to whatever we want. So we can make it like a little bit on the brown side, take the saturation way down, and see it's kind of gone back to the brown. And basically what this does, it'll still keep a little bit of that brown hue, but it won't have millions and millions of different colors. It will just have this hue in different like variations of levels. So you can see now that red pencil has gone, but we've kept the kind of hue of the ink. So that might be a little bit much. What I'm going to do is undo that. We go back to the original, and we can make a copy of this. And then what I've done is I've just taken out a little chunk like this. So I'm going to change this part. I'm going to desaturate it, continue, and then I'm going to go back into hue and colorize it. And this way we can match up the color to the ink. So I think it's kind of like in the reddy area. But we don't want it to be too red. See, that's too red. So we take it down to maybe, okay, that looks good. And then what we can do is we can remember the settings here. So I'm just going to round it up to 10. So that is 10 and 5. Then we press OK. You can make an action too in Photoshop. I don't even know where the actions are anymore. Here they are. Should we do it? Should we make a new action? Let's do it. So basically an action is like a little movie that you can record in Photoshop, and then you can play it and it will do it to the same, it will basically do that again and again and again and again. So I'll show you. It's a little bit complicated, but this is how you do it. So you bring up the actions panel, and then down here you can make a new action. So I'll call this one Inktober, if I can spell it, 2019 color. Then you hit record, and then you basically just do what you want. So you desaturate, go back in, colorize, and then go 10, 5, okay. Then you stop it. So I've gone to number 29. If I zoom in here so you can see the red pencil, and we select Inktober 2019 color, hit play, boom, it's done. See? That's pretty cool. So I'm going to do that with all of the images. Literally, hit play, and it does it to all of them. Which, that's actually a massive time saver. So that's a little trick to remember if you've never heard of that one before. So I've gone through and I have changed the saturation of all of them apart from number 19 and number 20. So number 19 and number 20 were a little bit experimental. I kind of wanted to show a number 19 that you were looking through like night vision goggles. So it kind of was all green when you're looking through the goggles. And then number 20 was meant to be an infrared camera. So it was meant to show like the heat of the animals and stuff. But I don't think it worked out very well, to be honest, on this one especially. So what I might do is I might make a copy of number 19 and then on the original do the action, so now it's desaturated. And then on number 19 we can create a mask and we can mask out the areas that we want to be in colour. So to do that you go down here to this little icon here, which is the mask icon. And then using a paintbrush, so when you paint with black it takes away the image, and then when you paint with white it brings the image back. And to switch between the colors really quickly, if you watch here in the corner you can see the colors are switching. That's the shortcut for that is X. That's a really handy shortcut to have, especially when you're doing jobs like this. So I'm going to fill the entire image with black and then change over to white, make my brush a little bit bigger, and then I'm just going to just softly bring in some of that green. And this way we're not going to be using too much of the ink, like the coloured ink in the printer. It's just going to be still grey, but bringing in a little bit of that green back. And another good thing about using masks like this is we can go up to the opacity and we can bring that down if we want. So this for me is a little bit too green, like it's a bit in your face because all the other ones are just grey. So I might bring it down to maybe like 70%ish, and then it's not so crazy. So the next thing we need to do, if I zoom in again to 100%, you can see that there's not a lot of contrast in the image between like the blacks and the whites. So the whites aren't as white as they could be, the blacks aren't as black as they could be. So the next thing I'm going to do is work with levels, and that's going to help make the blacks a bit darker and the whites a bit lighter and make the whole image pop. So you can do this as a big like blanket thing. Like if I click on the adjustment layer and bring up a levels, it'll bring up a new layer above all the other layers, and then I can make the adjustment to this and it will change all the layers beneath. So I'll show you what I mean. So this is a levels adjustment, and then this is the levels panel, and basically if you haven't seen this before, it's super easy. The black arrow here is for blacks, the white arrow is for whites, and you just kind of like bring it up. So you can see this little mountain here. To be honest, I don't really know what the mountain means, but all you do is you just bring it up, and as you can see, as I'm bringing it up, it's making the blacks really black until eventually it crunches them all out and goes completely black, which, I don't know, it could be interesting, but I don't think we want that. So I'm just going to bring it up just a little bit, maybe that much, and then you can do the same for the whites. So you bring the whites down just a little bit, and then this middle one here is for mid-tones. So you can see how that changes, how drastically that changes if I change it even a little bit. So I'm going to keep it in the middle. That looks good to me. So if I turn off the levels adjustment here, you can see the difference it makes just doing that. And the good thing about using adjustment layer is that it doesn't affect the layer itself. So if I turn this off and I just do this on the deer picture, so if I do exactly the same box, change the levels like this, so now that's saved onto this layer, which means I can't go back. I can go back into the levels and I can change the levels, but you can see that I can't go back to how it was. I can only go darker or lighter. I can't go back to how it was scanned in. So that's one good reason to use an adjustment layer. So you can just turn it on and off. You can change this whenever you want, and the layer below doesn't get affected. So now this will work on every layer. So if I turn the deer off and we see the little bear which is meant to be a bear floating off into, I don't know, the afterworld. It looks like he's melting a little bit. If I turn this on and off this layer, you can see it's changed. Now this adjustment layer is only going to work if all of these images are very similar. So if I had an ink image and then a marker image and then something I did with coloured pencils, something I did with watercolour, using the same adjustment layer wouldn't work. They would all scan in differently, they'd have different colours, different opacities, so you'd have to do that individually. But because these are all using the same ink, the same paper, the same, they were scanned in the same, I'm just going to do this for now, and then if I need to tweak it later individually, I can, but I think this works well. So I just turn it off and on. So it's just a little change, but it definitely makes the image pop. Now what I want to do is get rid of this paper texture here, because I'm going to be printing it onto paper. I don't want to have the texture printed onto the paper, if that makes sense, because not only is this going to waste ink, it's going to look messy and noisy. So I'll show you how I do that on one image, and then I'm going to do the same for all of them. So I've zoomed in on where you can see the paper texture, and for this we need to have a layer underneath this layer. So we click the new layer button and we drag this down. I'm just going to call this white so I know what it is, and I'm going to fill it with white. So if I turn this layer off, you can see it's just white underneath, and we need this underneath because what we're going to do now is we're going to blend this top layer here, which is the deer image, with the white background below. I'll show you how we do that. So what you do is you go to the image that you want to get rid of this texture on and double click, and it brings up this dialog box. And if we go down to where it says blend if grey, this top bar here where it says this layer, you want to find these two white arrows at the right hand side, alt click the left one and drag, and then it separates. And now what this is doing is it's looking at the image above in this texture where this texture is grey, and as we drag the arrow it's going to say okay, I'm going to take away this grey, and as you can see as I'm dragging it, it's taking away the grey and it's bringing in the white background from below. So if I go all the way to the top, it brings the texture back, all the way down takes all the texture away. Now the problem is you can overdo it. So if you watch the image, I'm bringing away the grey, looks great, but then if I go overboard, you see how it's now it's affecting the image, the deer image, and if I go all the way back, it's just gonna go crazy. So you want to kind of go easy with this and just go as far as you need to, and then you can always clean up using other methods if you have to. So what I like to do is just keep going until I see any changes in the image. So right there I'm seeing some changes. Dial it back a bit, and you just kind of play around with it really. So you can see it's taken away a lot of the texture, not all of it though. Another thing we can do is use the mask that I showed you earlier. If I make a copy of this, and I'll just call this 31 masked. I hide this layer, go down to number 31, and we'll just do that trick. So I'm going to bring the greys down. So I'm going to go quite far with this until I can't see any greys on the border. So you can see it's pretty clear. So now it's like nice and white, but the problem is it's crunched out the inside image. So we can go up to our mask, make the mask like before, completely get rid of the mask, get your paintbrush, change it to white, and then we can come in and basically just paint back the image. So it does seem like quite a lot of work, but I mean, you just put some Netflix on or some YouTube and it doesn't take too long at all. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to put these into a group. So I've selected them all, and going down to this folder button, it's going to put it into a group. I'm going to call that 31, and that way we don't have so many layers on top of each other. Okay, So one more thing quickly before I go, I'm just going to show you how I'm going to tidy up the edges. And to do that, you can do a couple of different things. You can just paint white onto this, which I wouldn't recommend, or you could use a mask again, because we have this white image below. I'm using a soft brush right here, but because this is quite harsh, this line of this black ink, I'm going to switch to hard, and that way you can get like a really clean line. So this will take a little bit of time, but if you just go slow, you can normally get rid of pretty much anything you want. So another way to mask out the background would have been just to mask it all like this, but I just wanted to show you a couple of different techniques that you can use, because if you're not using ink, if you just use a marker or acrylic paint or something, you're not going to have all of this kind of fuzziness, even if you're not using watercolor paper. So you might not even need to use the other technique I showed where you take away the grey. You can just use a mask, or you can use levels or anything like that. So in Photoshop, I've learned you can literally do the same thing like 30 different ways. So just find the way that works for you and make stuff. And there we go. That is a finished image so far. So there's nothing really, I mean, this is all done with ink, so there's a lot of like things here I could fix it up, but I won't. I'm just gonna leave it like that because it is meant to be like traditional art. So these birds here I did with white gel. You can see when I zoom in it's kind of ugly, but I'm just gonna leave it because that's how I did it. So yeah, and then what I would do from there, say for example I've done all these images, which I haven't, but let's say I have, I would just save this out, like I'd crop it to a nice size, save it out, and then I can bring that into InDesign later when I do my zine, which I'll probably show in another little video. But for now I'm going to go through and do all these images like this, tidy them up a bit, and call it a day. I spent about an hour and a half doing these, and I've done about 10 images, so really not that many. It does take quite a while to do them, but I'm going to stop now because I don't want to be on the computer anymore, and I'm going to do these tomorrow. Now we're going to watch a movie. Hey everyone, it's Sunday 3 PM and I am in our little office room here about to do voiceover for tomorrow's video. To be honest, I don't feel like doing anything. I just want to lay on the couch and have a nap. I'm just really sleepy today. I spent a couple of hours this morning cooking and doing just like stuff for dinner and lunches for next week, and then we went for a run over at the nature reserve and it was just super hilly and I'm really tired, and then we came back and had lunch, so basically that's like all the day gone. So I'm just gonna do the voiceover for the video tomorrow and then see what I do the rest of the day. Probably not much. I hope this vlog isn't gonna be boring this week because I honestly haven't felt like doing anything. It's just been one of those weeks. So I've got my video rendering in the office, and I just had to come in here to do a little mini photo shoot for the postcards. I'll just show you. So these are the little postcards that I had to just take a little picture of for my thumbnail. And if you've seen Monday's video, I'm doing like a little art giveaway. So I decided for 500 subscribers that I would paint 5 postcards of my favorite things I did this year and give them away. Now the only problem is I've done giveaways in the past and they are super popular, but this one isn't an art supplies giveaway, it's like an art giveaway, so I'm a little bit nervous that no one's gonna want them, which I know is silly because people watch my channel so they must like what I do, but it's still a little bit nerve-wracking, you know, because like it's your stuff, and even if it's free, who knows, maybe people just won't even enter, but I'm sure they will. But if you are watching this and you haven't entered and you want to maybe win one of these, I think the draw's still on until Sunday, so pop on over to that video and leave a comment if you haven't already. But yeah, that's all I'm doing, just rendering, so bye. Oh, do we? Oh shit. Hello, it's April here. It's Thursday, hopefully, and it's Thursday morning, lunchtime. Hopefully you can hear it's a bit windy. I decided to go for a little walk so I could do this outro because I'm gonna post my video this afternoon. So if you have skipped that little tutorial thing, it was how I did my images, you've probably only seen about 5 minutes of footage this week. I didn't really do anything. I haven't done anything since the weekend. I've just been so busy getting back to work, getting into a routine again, and sleepy, very sleepy, and also this yoga and running thing has really taken up a lot of my time. If I'm honest, I'm still going to keep doing it and then just kind of pare back in February, I think. But I hope you enjoyed what you watched, and I will be back next week and try and do more things, all the things. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.